Like with the previous episode, this story puts Michael in a very compromising situation when following up on a story about a girl witnessing a murder out in the bayou. With further complications to the mix, with KITT having limited functions due to foreign contaminants due to key circuits being exposed to swamp water, with him being unable to analyse the problem with his diagnostic probe rendered inoperable. And Michael is carrying injuries due to being mauled by dogs upon managing to stop KITT from sinking into the swamp. This then adds further problems when a weak video call to Devon and April is cut short due to circuits being limited, meaning that Michael and KITT were truly on their own. And not just the fact they didn't have their colleagues to fall back on. No. It's also due to the fact the town they were investigating in is run by a corrupt judge by the name of Oliver Callahan, who pretty much has the family name on most buildings. Narcissistic much? And of course, by extension, he owns the police, which means they're corrupt. Of course. So when I say Michael and KITT are truly on their own, they are, in every sense of the word. It's very apt this week when fighting criminals who operate above the law, when they are the law. As I mentioned last week, Michael is made to use his wits more, and use what he has when he's taken out of its comfort zone when KITT was taken out of the Trans Am, and this week when he's out of its comfort zone once more, by KITT not at full operation. But only having the one ace up his sleeve with the untested pyroclastic laminate coating that was designed by April to protect the Trans Am from extreme heat. This was the first appearance of the coating and wouldn't be mentioned again until Season 3's Circus Nights, of which point Patricia McPherson had come back to reclaim her role as Bonnie Barstow, and Rebecca Holden had left at the end of Season 2. I felt this was a necessary addition to KITT's arsenal, as there would be times where he would be required to enter hostile situations where fire and extreme temperatures would be an issue to deal with, and in the case of this episode, considering that Christopher Callahan, a convicted murderer, was in the bayou looking for his estranged wife Layla Callahan, of which who sent the Foundation the cassette tape explaining her situation, had set a poacher shack on fire, making a conventional rescue useless. But Michael Knight and the Knight Industries 2000 are not conventional. Flag was always the outfit that people would turn to when regular law enforcement didn't have the means to stop a crime or the cops happened to be dirty. As such was the case of Season 1's No Big Thing. I suppose in some respect you could see Michael Knight and KITT as the Knight Rider equivalent of international rescue from Thunderbirds. They were the go-to when regular forms of rescue were deemed impossible and you'd have a technologically advanced outfit to come in and do what no one else could. I grant that's not the greatest comparison in the world, but the context works. Now I have this amusing image of Thunderbird 2 dropping Pod 5 and KITT just drives out. Whoever's listening to this and loves both shows and can do great fan art, make it happen. You know you want to. Knight Rider is go! Also got this interesting image now of Michael entering KITT as if he is in a similar launch sequence to that of Thunderbird 2. That'd be funny, actually. Episodes like this is a solid reminder why Season 2 is considered the best of this series. They're extremely well written, dramatic and complex stories that have satisfying payoffs, and this is no exception, with Michael backhanding and giving out a Michael punch to boot to a guy who should really understand no is not a means of him continuing to treat his estranged wife like a slab of meat. As for acting, David really scores a home run this week by showing Michael somewhat vulnerable in terms of being physically compromised due to his injuries and having KITT at less than 100%. Same can be said with Daniels hearing his performance with KITT dealing with his frustrations in not being at the top of his game due to limitations on his capabilities. Edward and Rebecca have limited screen time due to the nature of the writing, but they do well as they often do. Leslie Wing plays the naive Layla Callahan extremely well as someone who is conflicted about wanting to help Michael despite not wanting to leave the bayou. Robert Reynolds, I found, played the cruel and insufferable Christopher Callahan well, with his obsession in wanting obedience from his wife. That wouldn't fly well today. As for the score, the southern themes really add a lot to the story for tension and suspense when Michael is having to battle the elements as well as the antagonists. Don Peake does as only he knows how. And here come the discrepancies. Good lord. Continuity error. When Devon shows Michael the black cassette tape, you can clearly see that both sides of it have a label with a white stripe. But when Michael puts the tape into KITT's in-dash player, there is no label, just a blank black cassette housing. Then when Michael ejects the tape after listening to it, the white stripe label is on it again. Due to his mud bath and other environment-related traumas during his trek through the swamps, KITT's grill-mounted scanner is partially disabled. Several of the red lights are not working throughout much of the movie, yet in the final fight between Michael and the bad guy, all of the scanner's lights are working again. Then shortly afterwards, in the scenes of KITT surrounded by the dogs and the lady saying goodbye to Michael, the scanner lights are again not all flashing. That was from imdb.com. In short, Ring of Fire is a fine entry into the history of Knight Rider and having our heroes at a disadvantage to use what they have in an extreme situation. And fire can be a very extreme situation. Always remember, it matters not what you have, but how you use it. To the point, resourcefulness. Michael and KITT are that, and then some. Good night from the night.